So thank you all for introducing yourselves. And now I'd like to get started with the agenda for today. So for today, we're going to start with a recap, a beginner's guide to analytics for management, which was a previous webinar. And then we'll also have a recap of the webinar before that, which was data governance and data ethics in analytics, and another recap of the data management and integration. So if you did miss our previous webinars, don't worry, we'll have recaps for each of them. And then we'll start talking about data-driven culture, data literacy and its impact, building a data-driven culture, overcoming challenges, and key takeaways in upcoming webinars. And then we'll end with a Q&A session. And again, please send in all your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. And now I'd like to introduce our team for today. So first I'd like to introduce Zahir Sheikh. With a career spanning over 37 years, Zahir Sheikh has advised some of East Africa's leading businesses on risk, internal audit, forensic services, ESG, and data privacy. Since joining BDO in 2022, he has overseen these services across Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. Prior to BDO, Zahir spent 24 years at KPMG East Africa, where he founded Kenya's first forensic practice and led regional teams. His career also includes 7 years in the UK, managing a consulting practice and motor trade business. A trailblazer in forensic services, Zahir founded the Kenya chapter of Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, where he was the first chairman. He has led significant investigations, provided expert testimony in courts, and advised on proactive fraud management. Zahir has held CEO and director roles in diverse industries, specializing in turning around underperforming companies. He also shares his expertise through over 40 webinars on topics like cybersecurity and corporate finance. Zahir holds an MBA from Cranfield University, is a certified fraud examiner, CPA Kenya, and certified public secretary. Our next presenter is Soumya Badlamani. She is a skilled data analytics and governance professional with over 10 years of experience, currently working at BDO East Africa. She specializes in utilizing AI, machine learning, automation, and advanced data visualization techniques to drive actionable insights and improve decision-making processes. Her expertise lies in crafting robust data strategies that align with the business goals, ensuring data integrity, compliance, and governance across various domains. With a strong foundation in analytics and a passion for innovation, Soumya continuously explores the intersection of technology and data to implement solutions that not only optimize operations, but also pave the way for future growth. Whether it is through developing AI models, automating complex workflows, or creating intuitive visualizations, her goal is to empower organizations with the tools and insights they need to succeed in an increasingly data-driven world. And last, I'd like to introduce James Etu, who is a data analytics manager from BDO Ghana. He currently serves as a data analytics and technology manager, leading cross-functional teams in audit, data analytics, tax analytics, and information technology. He has over 15 years of both industry and practice experience in business advisory, consultancy, and compliance across various sectors. He established the data analytics practice in Ghana in 2017 and grew it to two teams of specialists, ADA and TA. He leads BDO Ghana's data and technology strategic initiatives to enhance service delivery and drive strategic growth. He has been involved supporting cross-functional projects across the firm to uncover optimization opportunities. He's passionate about using data to solve business problems and drive transformation. So thank you all to all the presenters for joining us, and the representative from BDO Ghana, James Etu, thanks for joining us. I'd now like to hand it over to Zahir Sheikh to introduce BDO Global.
Thanks so much, Meha, and a very warm welcome to all of our participants today. I'm very excited to be with all of you again in the new year 2025. Before we start, I want to wish all of you a very successful 2025. This year is like other years. It's going to be very challenging, but with all of the changes in data, in AI, and the other global challenges in technology, I think there's going to be more to deal with this year than there is in coming years. What I would encourage all of you to do before I introduce BDO is the World Economic Forum does an annual report, and the 2025 annual report came out, was released in January. So have a look at that. Yeah, it's called the Future of Jobs Report 2025. It's got some really good insights. There's about 90 pages with another 100 pages of appendices. So some really good insights as to how businesses and jobs and just generally, what are the key driving forces globally and how that's going to impact all of us, whether you're a business owner or whether you're a job seeker or whether you're self-employed. Right. So a little bit about BDO. A lot of you will know BDO by now, but those of you who don't, welcome. BDO is a global tax, audit, and advisory firm. Last year, we had revenues of 14 billion and we grew by 7%. So we've actually got revenues of 15 billion in our latest financial statements. We've got a presence globally with a global footprint. We have offices in 166 countries, over 1,800 offices, and we employ nearly 120,000 professional staff. We're actually the fifth largest organization after the four who call themselves the Big Four. We're number five. We're half the size of KPMG and about 3 times the size of number six, which means we sit in a very unique position. We are flexible enough to be able to provide services that the leading audit firms provide. And we also have a very unique space in the middle market, which is family-owned businesses. And we're very successful in providing services both at the upper end as well as in the middle end. We have services in audit and assurance, tax, advisory, as well as outsourced and business services. Next slide, Meha. This is our Africa footprint. We just need to update this because some other areas should be covered in blue. For example, our East African footprint now also covers DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And we're going to be opening offices in South Sudan, in Somalia, and also in Burundi this year. So watch the space. But already we are a integrated service, professional services practice. And what's unique about BDO is that we're integrated completely throughout East Africa. So this means we have one partnership agreement, one partnership across all of the East African countries. And we have one system. So whether it's the accounting system, reporting systems, dashboards, and so on and so forth. So even though we're part of global, we are uniquely integrated. And this means we're able to provide a seamless service to all of our clients across East Africa. And once we're expanded to Southern Sudan, Somalia, and Burundi, we will actually have the largest footprint of any audit and advisory firm in East Africa. So it's something we're very proud of. Therefore, please watch this space. Next slide, Meha. I'll talk a little bit about the services that we provide. So I head the advisory services division in East Africa. And specifically, we provide internal audit and risk management services. This is an outsourced service. So a lot of you who've got large internal audit departments, if you're considering outsourcing that, you could potentially be looking at a saving of between 50 to 70% of all your expenses. And that's a huge saving. And at the same time, you're looking at bringing on board world quality audit services, internal audit services, people who have been trained, who are completely up to date with all of the requirements globally, regulatory requirements, as well as best practices in internal audit. And this is a service that more and more of our clients are taking up. They're downsizing their internal audit department, they're downsizing their risk management department, and they're actually hiring BDO as their external outsourced internal audit and risk management service providers. We also provide corporate finance and transaction advisory services. And I can very proudly say this is one area where BDO is globally number one. And when I say number one, I don't mean in terms of US dollar terms. There are obviously other practices, other firms that are bigger than us in US dollar terms. But in terms of the number of deals that we do, we actually have the highest number of deals globally, and it's very proud. I'm very proud to say that BDO has been in this space as number one for many years now. And what this says about our people is that our clients trust our people because you will only want to do a deal and you'll only want a professional on your side, who you reasonably comfortable that they're going to take you over the finish line. So this is another important reason to come to us whenever you have mergers, acquisitions, valuations, you're looking to expand your business in East Africa. Please talk to us. We might pleasantly surprise you with the number of contacts that we've got in the region. I also had the forensic investigations and forensic audits division. Again, nobody actually writes about forensic services. It's obviously, it's something, but it's just important for you to be aware that we provide this service. I established the first forensic practice in East Africa back in the year 2000. I also set up the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners chapter, and I was its first chairman. So again, we have a fully fledged unit with forensic IT. We can do data imaging and so on and so forth. And we have a very good record of identifying fraud. If you suspect you've got fraud, if you suspect you've got leakages in your organization, please talk to us. And this is an area where we can help you. We have a fully fledged IT technology advisory division. We also provide whistleblowing services. We provide cybersecurity and data protection services and data privacy services, as well as data analytics, which is the topic of today. And then we have a business outsourcing division, which provides all of the other services that you'd expect, like bookkeeping, accounting, statutory annual accounts, management reporting, payroll services, etc., etc. Our tax division has two services. One is the compliance services, and one is advisory services. So within compliance, we look after returns for our clients, PAYE, NSSF, VAT returns, and so on and so forth, all of those services. And then on the advisory side, we can do tax reviews, we can do health checks, we provide transfer pricing advice, we can provide advice on corporate international tax planning, where you need to have your head office, what makes sense for you in terms of just, having the best plan for your tax, and so on and so forth. And we've also got a very successful dispute resolution department. So if you get onto the wrong side of KRA and they hit you with a big claim, or any of the other revenue authorities in East Africa, please talk to our tax people. We have a good tax record, or we have a good record of talking to tax people, explaining, the nuances of your business, and then bringing the liabilities down. And we've been able to successfully do this for a number of our clients. And then, of course, we also have a audit and assurance department where we are able to provide at very competitive fees statutory audits, as well as audits of special projects and donor-funded projects. Well, at this particular point, I'm going to hand back to our speakers of the day. I wish all of you a very good session, and I'm sure it's going to be very engaging. And Soumya is going to take you through the first two webinars that we had and just give you a brief update. So anybody who missed out on that, this is your chance to start taking some notes furiously. And obviously, as usual, at the end of the presentation, we're going to be uploading this onto our YouTube channel on BDO, where you can see all of our other webinars as well. So over to you, Soumya.
Thank you, Zahir. Thank you, Meha. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, I'd like to take you through a recap of all the webinars that we've done till now. This is the fourth part of the webinar series. The first one was Beginner's Guide to Analytics for Management, where we introduced what analytics is, and we set the stage for understanding how data analytics can empower decision making with organizations. We began by exploring the data analytics process, basically a structured approach that starts with data collection and preparation and moves through analysis and modeling, and also culminates it with actionable insights. By breaking this down, we also highlighted how each step adds value and guides business strategies. We then moved on to tools and techniques that we use in data analytics, where we highlighted some of the softwares like Excel, Power BI, Python for data visualization, and also statistical analysis to advanced modeling tools that you generally use to enhance your predictive capabilities. And we also went through the right tools that enable faster and more accurate results while doing data analysis. One of the other key topics that we also spoke about is overcoming common challenges that are faced by companies, that are faced by organizations on barriers like data silos, limited resources, and resistance to change. We shared practical strategies for each, emphasizing how overcoming these obstacles builds a culture of data-driven decision-making. And then we finally delved into data accuracy, a cornerstone of successful analytics. We highlighted its role in maintaining trust, reducing errors, and ensuring that insights are both reliable and relevant. Today, I will take you through the next slide again, where it is we're talking about the second session of the webinar, which is data governance, data ethics in analytics. Over here, we explored the fundamentals of data governance, covering what's the definition, the importance, and its role in ensuring data quality, security, and overall business success. We also discussed the key components of data governance, including the policies, procedures, and rules, as well as setting the data quality standards. We also went ahead to review a few of the frameworks that we have, like DAMA COVID, and what is the significance of the data security and regulatory compliance, like the GDPR. We also shared strategies for fostering a data-driven culture, addressing governance challenges, and presented case studies also in the session. And we finally concluded with key takeaways and a few practical steps for improving data governance in organizations. And then the third part of the webinar being data management and integration. Now, having covered the basics and having covered data governance, we also needed to understand how to manage your data and how to make sure that it's integrated. So we started about talking about data warehouse, data structure, and how basics of data warehouse. Why do you need to maintain one? And then we moved on to data transformation, which is where we spoke about the ETL process, which is the extract, transform, and load. We spoke about why it's important, how you're supposed to use it, and what are the use cases that we have. And then we went ahead to speak about also the differences between an ETL, which is extract, transform, and load, versus the ELT, which is extract, load, and transform, giving a few practical examples of where you can use each one of those scenarios. And we finally ended the seminar with the best practices and tools for data management. What do we have out there? Which ones are open source and which ones are paid? And what kind of data can it handle? Having that recap today, we're going to talk about data, how to build a data-driven culture in your organizations. So a truly data-driven organization, it does not just collect and store data, but also ensures that data is actively used to drive strategy, optimize operations, and enhance customer experiences. So a strong data-driven culture is not just about having the latest analytic tools or having the latest technologies that come in the market, but it also requires a fundamental mindset shift where employees are at the level, at all levels, that is from the management to the entry level, rely on data-backed insights rather than just intuition to make informed decisions. This transformation involves breaking down the silos, fostering cross-functional collaboration, building data literacy across team, all of which we'll go through in the coming few slides. But I must emphasize that leaders really play a crucial role in championing this shift by integrating analytics into daily workflows to encourage transparency and also reinforcing the value of data-driven decision-making. So in this webinar, we will explore how organizations can align analytics with business objectives, ensure that data is accessible and actionable, and build a culture where employees are empowered to use data confidently. We will also discuss the importance of training, the role of leadership in driving this culture, and the key strategies that are needed to drive adoption. Additionally, we'll also highlight a few of the real-world case scenarios of organizations that have successfully transitioned into data-driven enterprises. So by the end of the session, you will clearly have a roadmap on how to embed analytics into your organization's DNA, enabling smarter, faster, and more impactful decision-making. Now that you have a background of what is a data-driven culture in an organization, let's talk about why it's critical. In the fast-paced business environment that we have today, organizations that embrace data-driven decision-making gain a significant edge over other competitors who generally use the traditional methods to make decisions. By leveraging analytics, companies can move away from intuition-based decisions and instead make more informed, backed by data choices that improve efficiency, enhance customer experiences, and drive sustainable growth. Let's explore how a data-driven approach leads a tangible business benefits across key areas. The first one being better decision-making. How does this help? It helps by reducing the risks by making informed data-backed decisions. So businesses or organizations that use data insights to guide decision-making minimize risks and enhance financial stability in the organization. I can take an example of a few African organizations in the finance and e-commerce or the telecommunication industry that have adopted the data-driven strategies to predict market trends. And they have significantly been able to reduce the uncertainty in their business. One such example that I can give is Safaricom. It's Africa's leading telecommunication provider, and they use big data analytics to detect and prevent mobile money fraud on M-Pesa, which is its mobile money platform. So they generally analyze the transaction patterns and user behavior, and then they identify the suspicious activity and alerts the customer in real time. So this is all data-driven, and this has significantly helped reduce the financial risks for millions of users and also built in trust in the company in Safaricom. The second one being increased efficiency, which means that you automate the processes, you reduce any redundancies that you have, and you save costs. So anything that's repetitive or anything that can be automated should be done. This minimizes human intervention and also minimizes error because there is less human intervention in it. I can give you a couple of examples where companies have used automation processes. One example is Jumia, which is basically our Amazon in Africa because we don't have Amazon over here. So it uses AI-powered logistics and inventory management to optimize its supply chain. So it analyzes the customer demand, the warehouse stock levels, and the delivery patterns, and it notifies on how the stock needs to be restocked or how many need to be delivered at a particular point of time. The third one being enhanced customer experience. So you're able to, with the data-driven culture, you're able to provide personalized products and services to your customers and your consumers. One example is Flutterwave, where they use AI-driven insights to provide personalized financial solution to small businesses. Another one can be just banks based on data. You know what kind of customers you're getting, you know what kind of deposits they're making in your bank, and based on that, you can create tariffs for them. Or probably an age group where you can create a special tariff for an age group because you have a lot of customers in that particular age group. The fourth one being competitive edge. It helps you stay ahead in the market trends. So any company that analyzes customer behavior, economic trends, like Zahir was talking about in the starting of the webinar, and industry pattern, you're able to predict the future market because you have all that data with you, and that gives you an edge to outperform your competitors. The last one being regulatory compliance and risk management. With increased data protection regulations across Africa, because of the evolving technology that we have, organizations should ensure compliance while maintaining data security and integrity. So it's critical because it helps you reduce errors and enhances your data security that you have, that needs to be in place with all the data that you're holding. Moving on to the next slide. So this slide is going to be a little interactive, but before we dive into the key components of data-driven culture, we'll start with a quick poll where we're going to ask you, how many of you feel that your organization fully utilizes data in decision making, versus how many of you feel that decisions are still made based on intuitions rather than data? Please choose one. We'll just give you a minute to answer the poll. Yeah. We're just giving you 20 more seconds to finish the poll. Anyone who's not answered it, please do. And then we'll share the results. So we've had 59% of you answered the questions. And out of that, I've seen that most of your organizations fully utilize data and decision making, which is great. And for the 37% of you who said that decisions are still made on intuitions, then this webinar is definitely for you. And hopefully things will change after this. So this is a common challenge in many organizations, and that's exactly what we're going to address today, right? A data-driven culture is just not about having analytic tools. It's also about how leaders, employees, and processes work together to make data an everyday decision-making asset. So let's explore the 4 key components that you see on your screen that shape a successful data-driven culture. The first one is leadership and strategy, which is the most crucial element, because without the leadership driving the data agenda, initiative will remain disconnected and underutilized in the organizations. So the leaders essentially need to champion a data-first mindset by setting clear goals, investing in the right tools, and ensuring that data-driven KPIs are part of the business objectives. I would leave you guys with a thought for this point. Think about your leadership team, and do they actively use dashboards, analytic reports, and real-time data for decision making? Or do you feel like they still rely on their experience and gut feeling? So leaders must essentially advocate for data usage and align analytics with business strategies to drive meaningful change. The second pillar being people and mindset. Even with strong leadership, and even if the leaders are taking the initiatives, without the employees' trust or without them understanding data, adoption will not work. So a data-driven mindset means shifting how people think about data, that is from an IT responsibility to an everyday tool for decision-making. Now, imagine you're making a business decision. Would you feel more confident if you had real-time customer trends, sales forecast, and predictive insights, or if you had to rely on an instinct alone? This is why data literacy training is critical. And a data-driven organization empowers employees at all levels to make informed decisions based on analytics and not just gut feeling. And I feel at this level where even somebody who's just beginning out, with the help of analytics, will be able to analyze a lot about the business and be able to bring in new perspectives to the business in terms of the trends, in terms of points that will help you make business decisions. The third pillar is data and technology. So essentially, technology is the backbone of data-driven decision making, but it's not just about having a fancy software. It's about having the right tools and using them effectively and making sure that they give you the insights that you want out of it. You can use something as simple as Excel or something as complicated as Tableau. Not really complicated if you learn, but as advanced as Tableau, if I may put it that way. And because all of you are data driven and there is so much data in it, there are a lot of insights that can come out of it, which you're not seeing at the moment. And the good thing with using these technologies is that the anomalies come out so clear. So in case there is a discrepancy somewhere, or in case there is something that you cannot see when you don't bring in the analytics, it's going to be clear over here. So the key is to choose the right tools based on what you want to see, based on your results, and based on the business value that you want to show. And the fourth one is process and governance, where you ensure data integrity. I know I've spoken a lot about governance. We've had a whole webinar about governance, but I cannot emphasize enough on how important governance is in this whole data journey. So as much as you have very good leadership, as much as you have very good mindset of people who are ready to adopt, and as much as you have the best technologies to work on, if your data is not correct, everything else will fail, which is why data governance is extremely important. Because there is no meaning at the end of the day for you to create insights on data that's unclean, data that's inaccurate, because then you're going to be taking decisions on wrong data, which will probably lead into wrong decisions. So strong data governance ensures that data is clean, secure, and reliable, and it also builds trust in analytics and compliance, and also makes sure that you're in tune with the regulations like GDPR and the Data Protection Acts and the data protection laws and so on and so forth. So now that we've explored the 4 key components, that's leadership and strategy, people and mindset, data and technology, and processes and governance, I think I'd like you guys to put it on the chat. Which area needs most improvement? Is it the leadership buy-in, employee training, better tools, or strong governance? What do you feel that your organization needs the most? You can just type your answer in the chat. And while you do that, I'll just give you a final takeaway on this slide, where we're saying that a data-driven culture is not built overnight, but with the right leadership, the mindset and the technology, and the governance, of course, your organization can transform decision-making and enhance efficiency and stay ahead in today's digital world. With that, I'll just give you guys a minute to answer, to put your comments on the chat before I move on to the next slide. Thank you for everyone who's typing in. I see a lot of people saying that it's people and mindset, and a lot of people saying data and technology. Thank you everyone for that. So let me move on to the next slide, where we're talking about differences between data-driven and traditional decision-making organizations. So I would give you a case scenario over here. Imagine you're a manager in a retail company and sales are dropping in one of your stores. So how do you decide what to do about it? So the first step, or first scenario is like a traditional decision making, where you might rely on your experience. So you think it's either because a customer does not like the new products, or you just run random discounts and hope the sales improve. Or maybe you just go ahead and change the layout of the store. This does sound familiar, right? But then these decisions are only based on guesswork and not facts. in the same scenario, in the same aspect, if you do scenario 2, where you're taking data-driven decision making, where you use real-time sales analytics that you've built in-house, you see that the customers are still buying, but they're only buying specific products. You also see that foot traffic has reduced in a particular period of time, or probably you've observed that certain categories are dropping because of a competitor's recent discount, or maybe the holiday season could be affecting it. So because you have the numbers and everything is proof driven, with these insights you can target promotions on the trending products, adjusting your operation hours, making sure your products are available in that particular season. And there are endless possibilities that you can possibly do with a data driven decision making. The second one is risk management. Now, this is where we'll have another poll. You'll be given 2 options and you'll have to select one that is riskier. The first scenario is you launch a new product without testing it in the market first. The second scenario is you analyze market demand, study competitors, and test the product with a small audience before a full-scale launch. Which one would you guys choose? I'm just giving you guys a couple of seconds more before we close the poll. Okay, so we had about 56% of you answer, and out of that, 60% of you said that you launch a new product without testing it in the market is much riskier. And while 40% of you said that it's riskier to analyze when you analyze the market demand, study competitors before a full-scale launch. Well, the 40% of you are not ideally very correct. The 60% of you got it right. The traditional decision making often increases risk because it's based on limited information. So companies that are data-driven reduce the risk by analyzing the patterns, forecasting trends, and testing ideas before executing them. So when you test ideas, you understand what are the risks, which are the areas that you can go wrong, because you collect data with the testing. So in the traditional decision making, you have a higher risk because of the subjective judgments that you have. The third element or aspect being operational efficiency, where companies using traditional decision making often struggle with slow reactive process because they don't have a measure, right? And they don't know how efficient their work is because they don't have automation too. But with data-driven organization, they use automation, they use AI, and they use analytics to optimize the operations. Then we have customer understanding, where we talk about the customer experience. So a lot of you may have received personalized recommendation from your Netflix or Jumia based on your past behavior, right? So Netflix doesn't guess what you watch next. It analyzes your viewing habit, your pauses, your replays, what kind of genre you're watching, and then it creates recommendation. Similarly, the e-commerce companies too, they use predictive analysis to offer discounts on products that you're likely to buy depending on your buying history. So the data-driven decision-making makes the customer experience and customer understanding much better, drawing you towards them and increasing their business at the end of the day. And the last one being competitive edge, where definitely you will have more gains because you have the upper hand in terms of understanding the market, getting real-time data, and also in making informed decisions. So shifting from traditional to data-driven decision making, it's not just an option. At the moment, it's a necessity with the growing technology that we have. And it's a necessity for businesses that are looking to reduce the risks, improve efficiency, and also gain a competitive edge over the other businesses. So if you want to take this a little further, I would say you can start with incorporating one new data-driven decision in your organization this week, and then you track on how it's going. So whether it's tracking the customer behavior, or analyzing a sales pattern, or testing a new idea with data, whether it's testing an automation with data, whatever field that you're in, and see the impact of it. So you can start small, but then you can also sell the idea to the other parts of the organization. And with this, I'll hand it over to James, who would take you through the other parts of the slides.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Soumya. That was a good delivery, introducing data-driven culture, why it's critical, its components, and the difference between a data-driven and a traditional decision-making organization. A very good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone on the webinar. My name is James once again. I will now take you through how to foster a data-driven culture, data literacy being a crucial element to achieving that, how to align it to make business impact, and of course, how do we build a culture that fosters cross-functional team, and then lastly, I will address some key challenges that one is likely to face. So what you see on your screen basically are the key elements that help to foster data-driven culture. When we say a data-driven culture, what exactly do we mean? Just as Soumya has already said, it's basically an approach or a mindset that a mindset of doing things within an organizational setting that encourages use of data. Data is highly valuable, readily accessible, and consistently used to make informed decisions, right? But such a culture is highly characterized by widespread data literacy and reliance on data-driven insights to guide business decisions. Okay, so why is this important? What does it benefit us? Well, a culture that embraces data is crucial for business survival and growth, right? And I'll take cue from a research from the Harvard Business Review, Analytics Services, which highlights that significant benefits for a data-driven culture includes 4 times increase in revenue, performances, and of course improved customer satisfaction. And to add to what Soumya already said, of course, a data-driven culture is an insight-driven culture, and of course that helps to understand customer desires, needs that can be used to measure and improve efficiencies and effectiveness, highlight errors and gaps in processes, and of course identify new opportunities for improved performances and value addition. So how can one start, or where does one start? Well, in an increasingly tech-driven world where AI is beginning to create the new normal, 2025 may as well mark a pivotal moment for organizations to look to capitalize on data for growth and innovation. I'll take a quote from Tim O'Reilly. Tim O'Reilly is the founder for O'Reilly Media, and he puts it this way: we are entering a new world in which data may be more important than software. All right. And in today's data-rich business environment, fostering a culture that leverages data insight is vital and crucial for businesses, for their success, and of course the success of an AI driven project. And for those who have been following the recent developments in the AI community. There has been key or very important news coming out from the US. For example, we heard of the new president, the US President Donald Trump, reversing the executive order that was passed by the former President Joe Biden in 2023 that aimed to monitor and regulate AI risk. Following that, he also went ahead to sign an executive order to make America the world capital for AI. And in his recent announcement of a $500 billion investment in a brand new project called the Stargate Project. That's a joint venture between the leaders of SoftBank Group, OpenAI, and Oracle. This is said to be the largest AI infrastructure project by far in the world history. Next slide, please. So with data literacy being one key aspect to foster data-driven culture, one will ask, what does data literacy really mean? Well, data literacy is the ability for individuals to read, work, and understand data, and of course, communicate that data with the essential meaning to create value, right? So why is this important in today's world? Why is it important? The world of data has seen a significant shift, especially accelerated by COVID. I remember very well, which increased the demand for data and analytics. Okay. It has become very crucial for everyone in an organization, not just the data specialists, to recognize opportunities for improvement around data. And of course, it supports the latest tech trend and some regulations that have been released, such as the EU AI Act, which is now requiring every employee to understand AI systems and their risk. As the workforce adapts to AI-driven changes, certain key skills will be required. And it's essential for us to upskill ourselves and, of course, reskill to achieve that. There are some key or core elements to data literacy. The key one, of course, being data literacy, which is help understanding, the benefits of the use of data. It doesn't necessarily require that you have a deep understanding of algorithms or models or whatever. Basically, it requires that you have a fundamental understanding. For example, fundamental understanding of how to use AI tools and how to use them effectively for decision making. Okay. Another one is ethical judgment. We have seen an increase in AI, and as AI is beginning to play larger roles in our daily decision making processes, it requires that workers need to be able to evaluate what the ethical implications are for using AI, for example, for their work, students in schools, and then, of course, ensuring that there's fairness, transparency, and accountability. Okay. And the last one being a data analytics process. This process basically ensures that management is able to put their data sets to use to encourage, predictive analytics, descriptive, and of course, we've seen people at the higher end putting in through machine learning with the aim to be able to interpret insight from that and provide for strategy and, of course, business decisions. Now, what's the impact of data literacy on businesses, or how does data literacy impact on businesses? It is common knowledge that the well-known data-driven organizations are the FAANG companies. By the FAANG companies, I mean the 5 prominent American technology companies. Meta, we used to be Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and of course, Alphabet, formerly known as Google, right? And what they've done is from the algorithms, they have algorithms for several things. For example, content recommendation, just like Somi already said, um, preference shares, searches, and of course, maximize distribution, okay, to enhance customer experiences. But it has been proven, and just as Sumia said, it's not really about the technology, right? And a key example that proves that is a company called Walmart. Walmart is a company in the consumer supply chain business in the US, and it's been proven that they pioneered the use of data in the 1970s, right? And what did they do? Well, they were the very first organization to build what we call a data warehouse to manage inventory across their businesses. This enabled them to become the first company to make $1 billion sales in its first 17 years, right? And they moved on, innovated to begin to use technology in the 1980s, where they realized that the data that they were collecting was not sufficient for them, and they went ahead to acquire um, um, better data in order to become, to come to where they are now. And they went ahead by doing implementing what we call a barcode scanner at their and at their cash registers, right? And we also know about some other companies, for example, FedEx and UPS. Um, it's common knowledge that they practically are rivals, and they used data in delivering their services. A key example was UPSA used data to realize that if their drivers took a right turn, it seemed to be contributing to a large improvement of fuel savings for them, and of course reducing in wasted time. But there are some key challenges to building data literacy, and the ones we already heard of, which is the culture, resistance to change. But the key one is leadership support. Once there's no leadership support, it basically stalls all progress. Okay. Now, moving on to the next slide, which basically is talking about how do we build a data-driven culture. All right. What you have on your screen are the 4 pillars for driving data culture. And Moreau puts it this way. It says that a strong leadership that drives data initiatives and ensures organizational buy-in, it's inculcated in strategy, and that strategy and in a clear strategy for, of course, data usage. He also went ahead to say that people who possess the necessary skills to work with data would support that strategy, and of course governance and then the tools necessary to support such strategy. Okay. Now, building a data-driven culture is not something you can do overnight. And of course, it's not a one-size-fits-all. But there are certain things that you need to have in place to foster the growth of data-driven culture. Okay. So fostering that culture is not a one-off initiative. It is a continuous journey that requires strategic planning, commitments, and efforts on everyone's part. Okay. And the path to becoming data-driven would look differently for every organization. And depending on where you fall on that scale, certain things may not apply. So how can one start to build a data-driven culture. We always say that the best way to start is to start small. Okay, and in starting, start with the users in mind. Just as any successful project begins with the understanding of its intended users, a thriving data culture starts with clear understanding of what the people intend it for. So even though some start with technology and the data, we've actually seen cases where there were huge investments in the technology infrastructure, and then they gathered a lot of data, but in the end, what happened was they were unable to use that data, and it's just a huge capital investment gone waste. So what does a data-driven organization look like? Well, a data-driven organization is one that everyone embraces, data, starting from the very top. It's one that uncovers opportunities to drive improvement. It's one that encourages innovation and, of course, new ideas to be tested, like I said earlier. The employees of such organizations are data literates, okay? Data is accessible and consistent, therefore eliminating what we call data silos. And of course, data is treated as a business asset, which is used to deliver competitive advantages. At the center of all of this is the core business strategy that seeks to utilize data and what it wants to achieve, and not leaving out the governance part of it, which is the data ethics and, of course, data privacy issues. Next slide, please. Now, how do we align a data-driven culture to business, to make business impact? Well, like I said earlier, start with the business needs first. Whilst there's a lot of cutting-edge technologies like AI, machine learning, and data analytics, and these often dominate the conversation when you talk about a data-driven organization. But it is clear that going the technological approach would leave you with a lot of capital investment going waste. Okay. So we say it's essential to ensure that data goals are aligned to the business visions. What does this mean? Basically, it means that we are able to identify those critical business questions that we want to use data to answer, and develop a strategy around that to address those questions. Okay. So aligning data initiative with strategic goals for your organization is very crucial. And this alignment ensures that data projects or initiatives that are contributed directly or contributes directly to the broader vision of your organization, making it easy to justify any investment or success measures. Okay. So how can you, or what can you do to foster this? Next slide, please. Good. So we are saying that to foster a cross-functional data team, you need 4 key elements. We need the leadership intervention, we need data empowerment, we need collaboration, and we need value realization. When we say leadership intervention, basically what we mean is the leaders of the organization must be actively championing data-driven initiatives. They must own the outcome. They must communicate clearly what the importance of data and AI is, and of course, encourage a culture of curiosity, experimentation, and learning. And like I already said, with data empowerment, basically, what are we saying? We're talking about eliminating what we call data silos. And we're talking about employees having equal access to data, and of course, having the necessary skills to effectively use data. We're talking about ensuring that there's data readiness in the sense that you have all the necessary elements in place, be it your storage tech, your collaboration tech, and your analysis tech. Okay, these are all tech infrastructures that need to be in place. And the last one on data empowerment is constantly providing training and upskilling opportunities to develop your team. Okay. On collaboration, we talk about how data needs to be aligned with business needs. There needs to be data literacy across all of the organization to ease communication challenges. And of course, we need to encourage what we call cross-functional relationships or partnerships that helps to promote the use of data across different departments or units. The last one, which is the value realization, which is very key, is defining clearly what the targets or outcome or the necessary KPIs for these initiatives are. Ensuring that everyone understands what these targets are and how to measure them and what we're trying to achieve. And lastly, celebrating and recognizing successes to sustain the momentum and, of course, inspire the data users. The next slide, please. So here I'll walk us through the common obstacles, and then I will talk to some solutions to becoming a data-driven organization. Well, the benefits of data culture or a data-driven culture is very clear. Implementing one can be very challenging, and there are some key barriers to building a data-driven culture. The very one at the top is resistance to change. Moving to a data culture, it's a mindset shift, right? And that could be met with a lot of resistance. To overcome this, we encourage communication. Communication that benefits, of course, the entire organization. And also a communication that leads to promoting or providing training and involving everyone within the change process. And lastly, addressing any misconceptions that people may have, such that some people think that it could lead them to being redundant and all of that. The next one is data quality issues. Now, poor data quality can undermine trust in the use of data or even the outcome of the use of data. To address this, we suggest implementing what we call the data governance practices, as we already mentioned, to address what we call practices ensure that there is what we call data accuracy and consistency and reliability across board. And one last thing we also encourage is regular audits to identify and rectify data quality issues. The last one challenge that we have is what we call lack of data literacy. Now, we know not everyone is comfortable with the use of data, okay? But we encourage there should be such as designing training programs to enhance skill levels within the organization. Privacy concerns. And there are people who critique the use of data basically because of the privacy and security concerns. And what we encourage is to implement strong data governance and security measures, like setting up, policies that promotes good access control to data, that promotes encryption of sensitive data, and that monitors the use of data across the organization. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. At this point, I would hand over to Soumya.
Thank you, James. So I will be taking you through the next few slides where we're almost coming to an end. Now we'll be talking about how to measure and demonstrate a data-driven initiative impact. So we've already got is how do we measure the impact of data-driven decisions. So the biggest mistake that organizations are making is not measuring the impact of the data-driven decisions that they're making. So without measurements, it's almost like driving blindfold. So you have no idea if you're on the right path or not. So today I'm going to walk you through a powerful step-by-step framework for measuring the impact of data-driven initiatives so that your business decisions are not just informed, but also optimized for success. The first one is define objective and metrics. So before you can measure any impact, we need to answer one simple question. What does success look like? And this is where we define our objectives and key performance indicators on what we want to measure or what is the objective that we have, right? So I would take an example of a retail company. Let's say you have a retail company or a new e-commerce platform. And some of the objectives that you could possibly track is sales metrics, probably a customer engagement, maybe operational efficiency. So the first thing is that your objective should be specific, it should be measurable, and it should also align with your business goal. And because if you do not define what your success would look like, then you wouldn't know whether you've achieved it or not, right? The second one is to establish a baseline. You know what to measure, but then you also need to set a baseline because you have to compare it against something, right? So that would become a before snapshot. And why do you need to do it? Because data is only meaningful when you compare it against something. So if you want to show that you have a growth of 10% in comparison to last year, you'll have to have last year's data for you to say that, okay, I've compared it with this baseline and I have a 10%, 15% growth or a degrowth. So you always have to compare your new data to a starting point, which helps you prove the real impact that you're creating with the data-driven initiatives. And the third one being using analytic tools. You have the data, you have your objective, you have your baseline. Now, what do you do with it, right? You use the analytic tools. Could be an Excel tool where you're just creating a bar chart, or could be more advanced tools like Power BI, Google Analytics, Tableau, and so many others that we have out there. So what these tools do is they turn your raw data into clear insights where you can have visual graphics in form of bar charts, in form of line charts to show the growth, degrowth, and to show the movement in the data that you have, right? The fourth one being conduct A/B testing. And this is where we just test the data that we have. And it's basically A/B testing is running two versions of something to see which one works the best, and then you adopt that methodology. So when you're trying to get a data-driven initiative, or when you're trying to run an objective and reach a goal, you take two methods of it, and then you test which one works better, and then you go with that approach. And the last one, which is the most important one, is continuous monitoring. So measurement is just not a one-time thing. I mean, you wouldn't only want to measure what's your profit for 1 year, right? It's something that you want to do as long as your business is sustained. So it's really ongoing. And you also need real-time monitoring to track the trends, identify the problems, identify patterns, and make quick adjustments in your business so that you can really thrive. So the real-time monitoring ensures that you stay ahead of your problems and not react to them after it's too late. So these are a few ways that you can measure your data-driven initiative and how it's impacting your organization. The next slide is action plan. So I'll just take you through really a short way of building a data-driven culture in an organization. So the reality of many businesses that we have right now is that the data is there. They do have all the data, but then it's not driving into real action. So it's not being transformed into something meaningful where an organization can take informed decisions based on it, right? And then being data-driven doesn't only mean having an analytics tool. It's about changing the way the decisions are being made at every level. So today I'm going to walk you through a practical action plan to help any organization, whether it's a small one, a large one, medium scale, to transition into a truly data-driven culture. So before you do anything, the first thing you need is a clear data strategy, which means that you need to answer the question, why does data matter to your business and how will it be used, right? A well-defined data strategy sets the stage for how data will be used, who owns it, and how success is measured. This aligns to a lot of what I've said in the previous slide too, because you need to know the how and the why and how are you going to measure it, right? And then now that we have a strategy, we need to ensure that the data is also accurate and it's secure and it's accessible. So now this is where data governance comes in the action. So it ensures that the data is clean, it's consistent, and it's compliant. The third one being, now we have a strategy, we have data governance, but even with the best of them, best data strategy and governance, you need the right tools to make data accessible and useful for your team. So investing in the right tools ensures that everyone in the organization has access to data in a way that they can actually use it and make decisions out of it, right? The fourth one being to train and upskill your employees. Even though you have a good data strategy, you have a good data governance framework in place, and you've invested in the right tools, if people and employee do not know how to use it, it's going to become meaningless again. So the people need to be trained, they need to be upskilled. And remember, it's not only about hiring data scientists or data analysts, it's more about empowering every employee to make decisions using data and to incorporate data-driven methodologies into their day-to-day work in any field that they're in. And finally, it's to monitor and iterate. So becoming data-driven is not a one-time. It's not something that you adopt now and then you say, yeah, we've done it, and you don't repeat it. It's something that it's an ongoing process of monitoring, learning, improving because of all the evolving technology that we have out there. So it's more like a culture that's embedded into the organization to track the key metrics, analyze patterns, and to make continuous improvements in your business. So now I have a poll question for all of you. And it is, if you could improve just one of the areas today, which one would it be? Developing a clear data strategy, implementing data governance, investing in the right tools, training employees, and monitoring and iterating. Which one of these would you choose to improve in your organization? I'll give you about a minute to answer the poll, and then we can move on. Thank you so much, everyone, for your answers. We have 50% of you have answered the question, and most of you have said that about 49% of you have said that developing a clear data strategy would be one area that would improve, and I cannot agree more with you. So with this, I would like to conclude by saying that the data-driven culture is not built overnight. But if you start with these 5 steps in the action plan, you'll transform the way your organization makes decisions, leading to a faster growth, better efficiency, and smarter strategies. Moving on to the next slide. So this is the upcoming next webinar that we have. We've done the beginner's guide, we've done data governance, we've spoken about data management and integration. We've also spoken about, today we've spoken about data-driven culture in organizations. The next one is basically on how to assess your organization, analyzing how mature organization is in terms of data capabilities and what can also be done with the data. That will be our next series that will happen soon. And with this, we come to the end of the webinar, and now we're open for questions. Please post your questions in the question and answer tab so that we can answer. We already have one question from Alex, who's asked us, how can we ensure data accuracy and prevention biases in decision making? So data accuracy, again, I cannot emphasize enough on data governance, making sure that we have the governance in place. Also, automation really helps in data accuracy because it reduces the human intervention that we have while inputting the data. And the third is data validation rules. So as and when you're opening platforms to people for data to be input, good validations will help you have clean data. And prevent biases in decision making is making sure that you have enough variety of data and you have data over a period of time, so that when you're running a model to assess your you can say predictions, it is not biased towards one set of data. I hope that answers your question, and we're open to more questions now. So it looks like all of you have really understood how an organization can build a data-driven culture in an organization. I give you guys one more minute probably for, okay, yeah, we have a question. Would you advise a centralized data team to develop a one-fit-all data governance for all departments? Yes, I would advise a centralized team to develop data governance for all the other departments. Basically, these should be a set of people who have knowledge on the governance frameworks that we have, who have knowledge on tools and technologies that can be used. But then the end team there needs to be somebody in the end team who's always responsible for data, so that the data that's coming into the system is clean. So remember, data governance is not only a one-time thing, right? It's something that needs to be done over and over again. So then we have another question by somebody anonymous who's asked, do you have any international benchmarks and global certifications for data-driven company readiness? We do have several international benchmarks and global certifications that assess a company's readiness to be a data-driven organization. One is the MIT's data-driven maturity model. We have the Gartner's, we have DAMA, and then we also have the ISO certifications, where we have the ISO 8000, ISO 27001. We are an ISO 27001 organization too. And then these are a few that you can have, but like you also have industry specific, like the IFRS in case you're in financial reporting. In case you're in AI, then ISO or being Microsoft certified would also help. As we just gave people more time to type in the question in case of any. The other way you guys can also get started is by reaching out to us. We also do help implement data governance strategies, do data analytics, AI models, and also in case you feel like you don't know where to start, you need somebody to assess, or you need a starting point somewhere, then you can always reach out to us at BDO East Africa. And we'll be sharing a webinar feedback survey. If you could just take time, a few seconds, and just fill it in. So we have one more question where they've asked, the previous speaker mentioned that the EU AI Act requires all employees to AI. What is the benchmark certificate for this and how do you offer it? So, so the EU AI Act is the world's first comprehensive AI regulation, and it aims to ensure trustworthy and ethical AI usage. It does not mandate all employees to AI, but it requires the organizations to train the employees handling the AI system. And a few of the benchmark certificates that you have for the EU AI is the ISO IEC 42001, which is the AI management systems. And you can take it directly online. And you have some other compliance certificates that you can do. That's from MIT, from DCAM, where you have the AI and data governance certificate that you do. The IEEE, which covers the EU AI Act too, for AI ethics and governance. So there is another question that's been asked: how do you balance data-driven decision making with human judgment and experience? So data-driven decision making is basically on proof, right? As much as you have proof, as much as you have all the patterns and all, you need that human intervention to be able to take that decision, to be able to take a judgment based on a certain record of data that you have. So data-driven decision making does not replace human judgment, but it helps making a human judgment based on facts. right? And of course, like any field that you have, the more experience you are, the more better decisions you're able to make because of the vast experience that you gain or the vast scenarios that you see throughout your career. So it's just that the data-driven decision making gives you proof or gives you a comfort that you can make a decision based on these metrics that you have or the past trends that you have in the company, in the organization. So I guess we don't have any more questions. So that will bring us to the end of this webinar. Thank you everyone for attending. It was really nice having you all and looking forward to see you all in the next webinar. Thank you.